Thank you for serving as a clinical supervisor for a UAB genetic counseling student. This short video recording is designed to provide you with a general overview of how UAB rotations are designed. It is intended to be a practical tool that you may want to watch in preparation for your first student, or as a refresher if it has been a while since you've had a student. This video is among a series of videos that are intended to quickly capture the essence of common questions that supervisors might have. We hope you find it helpful. The main points we will cover in this video include how UAB rotations are designed, for instance, the number and length of rotations, general rotation requirements, for example, logbook cases and performance evaluations, and a typical rotation schedule, or in other words, how rotation dates are selected and how often students are expected to be in clinic. First, design of UAB rotations. As you can see here, our students have 1 lab rotation and 5 clinical rotations. All students get their lab rotation at UAB prior to leaving their first year of training. This is typically done as soon as their spring classes finish, usually the first 2 weeks of May, and is 2 solid weeks in either a molecular, cytogenetic, or biochemical lab. When this rotation ends, mid-May, the student has about 3 months during their summer in which they can complete their first clinical rotation. This rotation, summer rotation, or rotation 1, is scheduled at the convenience of the supervisor and student for any 4-week period between mid-May and mid-August. The summer rotation is shorter than the rotations during the school year, and therefore students are typically in clinic most days of the week. This is in contrast to rotations during the school year, when students spend 7 to 8 weeks in rotation and are in those clinics for 2 to 3 days a week. The summer rotation can be in any discipline, and many of our students go off-site for their summer rotation. Rotations 2 through 5 are during the school year and last 7 to 8 weeks each. All students will have a clinical rotation in each of the following disciplines: prenatal, pediatrics, cancer, and specialty adult. The 5th clinical rotation can be a repeat of one of these disciplines, or it can be a unique rotation, such as research or genomics. During these rotations, students are typically in clinic 2 to 3 days per week. This is because students also have classes and graduate projects going on during the school year. Rotation dates vary slightly each year, depending on the academic calendar for UAB. Typically, however, you can expect rotation 2 to start mid-August to mid-October, rotation 3 to run mid-October to early December, rotation 4 to run early January to late February, and rotation 5 to run early March to late April. You can always get an idea of UAB's academic calendar by visiting the university homepage at the website provided here. There's a Quick Links tab at the top that can quickly take you to the university's academic calendar. These dates match up pretty closely to rotation dates, but specific rotation dates can always be confirmed by contacting our program or your student as needed. Note that our students start their fall rotation 2 weeks prior to the first day of class for this semester in August. This allows them time to adjust to clinic before their classes start. University holidays are honored for our students, like Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, etc., with the exception of spring break, which our second-year students don't get, in exchange for flexibility with their spring clinic schedule for things that come up, like job interviews. Please feel free to contact our UAB genetic counseling program at any point if you are to the point of wanting to confirm specific dates for a student rotation, as we're happy to help. Again, the typical rotation design and timeline are described here. More information about scheduling a student's day-to-day rotation, like what days of the week they will be in specific clinics, are coming in the next few slides. Next, we will talk about general rotation requirements. These include the following. First, each institution has a process for onboarding students that was outlined in a written legal agreement or affiliation agreement that was made to enable you to serve as a rotation site. Therefore, this is probably something that has already been established with your site's main contact and has already been communicated to the student by UAB. Typical requirements for this include things like CPR training, background checks, instructions on how to get a hospital badge, parking directions, or access to your patient medical records system. Each site's process is a little different. If you anticipate concerns with the onboarding process or are not sure who your site's contact is or how to confirm these steps have been taken, please feel free to contact UAB. Next, each student should have a designated primary supervisor. While many sites choose for students to work with more than one supervisor during their rotation, having a primary supervisor to serve as a contact for students, a point person for UAB, and to take on the main role of organizing the rotation is ideal. This primary supervisor should be a certified genetic counselor. Next, plan an orientation for the student that includes a time to talk about goals. There is an additional video that goes into much more detail about recommendations of topics to cover at this orientation, as well as more detail about goal setting. Next, for most rotations, we ask that students obtain 24 logbook cases during their 7 to 8 week rotation. This equates to approximately 3 to 5 patients per week. The exception to this is for summer rotations, which, due to their shorter time, being only a 4-week rotation, has a benchmark of 12 cases. There is another video that goes into more detail about what counts as a logbook case and how to sign off on a logbook case. Next, most sites choose to assign rotation activities to be completed during the rotation. Assigning these is left up to your discretion. Common examples of these include things like completing an assigned reading list, presenting at a chart conference, attending a regular seminar, tumor board, or grand rounds, writing 1 clinic note per week, or creating condition outlines for common indications in your clinic. While these are not required, it is encouraged that you consider at least one type of these assignments for your student during his or her rotation, so that you have an additional means of helping them develop as a professional and of giving them feedback on these important aspects of being a genetic counselor. Next, a written syllabus can be extremely helpful to provide to students at the beginning of the rotation. This syllabus is intended to outline all expectations of your rotation, including directions to clinics, contact information for the counselors, describing any assignments or seminars. A sample syllabus is available from UAB with template language if you'd like to request one. Most counselors find that it is time-consuming to create this the first time, but then saves them lots of time from answering the same questions over and over again from students and helps them more clearly lay out their expectations for the students, which most supervisors report greatly enhances the supervision process for both themselves and the student. Syllabi, once created, are easy to tweak from rotation to rotation and are not very time-consuming once the original syllabus has been made. Finally, all students should receive a midpoint and final evaluation. These evaluations are required for UAB students. The evaluations are where the supervisor meets with the student, ideally face-to-face, to discuss the student's performance, goals, and development. An evaluation form specific to our program is provided to you by the program to use, and it provides the backbone of information on which the student is assessed. There is another video that goes into much more detail about student assessment. Next, let's talk about planning a rotation schedule. Most supervisors find it easiest to create a schedule that reflects the clinics a student will be attending during his or her rotation. The basic start and stop dates of the rotation can always be confirmed with our program, and more detail was provided about typical timelines for when each rotation begins and ends earlier in this video. This part of the video talks about scheduling the day-to-day, weekly clinic schedule for a student. A sample schedule is shown here. As you can see, the schedule doesn't have to be complicated, but is simply a reflection of when the student is assigned to be in clinic each week and who they will be in clinic with on that date. What you can see here is a snapshot of one of our pediatric rotation schedules, showing the first 4 weeks. Most find it easiest to make this schedule for the whole rotation and have it ready to provide to the student at orientation. Remember that except for summer rotations, students should be in clinic only 2 to 3 days per week during the school year. This is because on those other days they have responsibilities such as classes and graduate projects. For the shorter summer rotations, students can be scheduled in clinic 4 to 5 days a week, even though they may not see patients every day. In addition to having a rotation schedule to provide the student at orientation, other things to think about regarding scheduling include the following. Avoid scheduling students in any clinics on Thursday afternoons, as this is when they will be attending their seminar classes for the program. Second-year students do still have classes and attend them on every Thursday afternoon, whether they are at UAB or off-site. They can attend these classes virtually if they are off-site. Next, regardless of whether it's a student's first rotation or their last rotation, keep in mind that it is likely a new site or a new discipline for them. Therefore, we strongly recommend that students observe during their first week of any rotation to enable them to get familiar with your site, your style, and your workflow. Next, when planning their schedule, we strongly recommend that a student spends at least 1 day a week with their primary supervisor if possible. There's a lot of benefit to spending time with a variety of counselors to learn from a variety of perspectives, but trying to spend regular time with your primary supervisor helps establish rapport and helps a supervisor feel more comfortable giving feedback as well. Next, know that students will need lots of time for preparation and follow-up. Remember that clinic is new to them, and it often takes them a long time to prep for patients and to get familiar with your chart or record system. For this reason, we tell our students to expect to be in the clinic space for more than is reflected on their schedule. For example, if their schedule for that week says they are in clinic 2 half-days that week, they should expect that they will likely spend 3 whole days in the clinic once you include the time required for prep and follow-up. Finally, regarding benchmarks, it can often be helpful to plan for your rotation what benchmarks you want a student's experience to include in your rotation. That can help with planning the schedule for all future students. For example, in a pediatric clinic, if you want all students to attend 1 general genetics clinic per week and 1 specialty clinic per week, set that as your internal benchmark. For a prenatal rotation, if you want all students to attend 3 first trimester clinics, 8 general prenatal clinics, and 3 maternal complications clinics throughout their 7 to 8 week rotation, set that as your internal benchmark. Refer to these benchmarks anytime you go to make a new schedule for a new student. It can speed up the process and make your process more standard from student to student. We hope this video has helped to provide a general overview of what to expect for a UAB genetic counseling student rotation, including the basic design of rotations, rotation requirements, and rotation scheduling tips. You may view this video again at any time. We hope you will also view other videos that answer more specific questions you might have about being a supervisor. Again, thank you for serving as a clinical supervisor for a UAB genetic counseling student.